I'm Greg Tepper. That's Greg Powers. And this is This Week
in Cruton.
This Week in Recruiting with Greg Powers, Next Level Athlete. Follow him on Twitter at GPowersScout. Follow Next Level Athlete on Twitter at Next Level Athlete.
Whoa! Why does that, man,
Is it on autoplay?
Yeah, this air raid siren and we really do go back
People
and forth.
are really excited about that, about This Week in Recruiting.
Yeah, well, now we can get to it.
Yeah, the air raid siren. It's like recruiting's interesting, but maybe not
We need
air
to
raid
get
siren.
one of those blow-ups.
Yeah, like the wacky waving arm flinging inflatable tube man.
This Week in Recruiting blow-up.
Yeah, that's what we need. Powers is here. Hi, Powers.
What's up?
Let's get to a number of things in the world of recruiting. It's a big week, and so I don't cover recruiting as intensely as you do. I cover it, and I follow it, but I'm not as into it as most people are. Some people are, I will say. I'm probably into it. I'm probably into it more than the average human.
We talk a fair amount of recruiting in the office, I would say. It's true.
Yeah. But my point is, this feels like a big week in recruiting. When I am saying that, I know that every week is a big week in recruiting for you. When I'm saying it feels like a big week in recruiting, I feel like there was some big.
Well,
and that's why we had to have the air raid siren. See, it was all worth it.
When you're leaving stuff out of the notebook. It's a big week. Like Tykeus Crawford from Carthage decommitting from Arkansas this week. Didn't even make it into the notebook this week. A number of other commitments besides the two that were, I like to sneak sometimes a commitment in there for one of the other slots. So we have two commitments to talk about this week, but there were some that didn't make it.
Let's start with our prospect on the rise. Prospect on the rise. We're going down Barbers Hill way, down to southeast Texas. 2020 offensive tackle Casey Collier has decommitted from Minnesota. He was a longtime Golden Gophers commit. Right. He has decided to decommit verbally from Minnesota, opening things back up. He's had a really good senior year, and as a result, he's picked up a couple of offers. Most notably, I would say, he picked up an offer from USC.
He's a long, true tackle type of prospect. USC offered, Texas Tech has offered, Houston is in that mix as well, but his Power 5 offers, I think, Missouri, Arizona, I think are also schools to watch on his list. He's not afraid, as you can gather from his commitment to Minnesota, to go far away from home. We're watching his Next Level Athlete camp, seeing how he moved back in January. What really impressed me is that he seems much bigger than what we're looking at here. We checked him in at 291 in January, and look, it's a pretty light-looking 291.
Yeah, I was going to say he seems to be a kind of guy that 291 hangs well on him. You know what I mean? He doesn't look like big and swollen. He looks like pretty athletic for 291.
One thing I always like to bring up when we talk about recruiting is that evaluations really never stop. You will evaluate all the way up until the time that you sign a prospect or make the final decision on whether you're going to sign a prospect. And, of course, us who do recruiting rankings, we are continuously evaluating. And 5 minutes before we went on the air, I'm watching more tape. I watched tape of Collier last night, game tape, and I really like him on his senior film this year. He actually reminds me a little bit, and it's no coincidence maybe because Tom Westerberg at Barbers Hill coached Greg Little. He reminds me a little bit of Greg Little on his senior tape. And, we put out an article this week, 5 2020 prospects on the rise to be in consideration for a 4-star within that DCTF top 100. And Casey Collier's not even in the top 100 now. And I'm actually thinking that he's a guy who could be in that 4-star conversation based off of his senior tape. So, you're constantly evaluating. This is one of those guys who's on the rise. Casey Collier's prospect on the rise. He really fits that mold.
Well, and I'll tell you that I think that's an important distinction to make is that, I think people think about our I think people maybe look at our top 100 and don't realize how dynamic it is.
Right.
Is that you are always looking at guys and you're saying, you know what, I maybe underrated this guy, and we need to find a way to move him up and things like that. It is a dynamic top 100. It's already changed a handful of times in the past month alone.
Well, it's what you do is we've created something that's very competitive. The top 5 guys, we put a number on it. The top 5 guys are going to be 5 stars. The top 50 are going to be 4 stars, 3 stars after that. So we've established a top 50 of 4-star guys. Now, if someone goes into that top 50, someone has to come out.
Right.
So that's
tough.
It's competitive, man, and there's a lot of good football players in Texas. I got to tell you that you look at from number 35 down to 85, they're very similar.
Yeah.
And then you have guys like this who emerge throughout their senior season, and you got to put them on the mix. They're going to knock somebody out.
As somebody who does high school football rankings, yeah, I know what you mean. As far as
there can only be one number one.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Let's get to our commit of the week. Our commit of the week is in the GFW Metroplex. Little Elm safety Ryan Watts has pulled the trigger. He is heading to Buckeye Land, now an Ohio State commit. Basically, he was an Oklahoma commit at one point, decommitted, and is heading to the Buckeyes. Little Elm this is a guy that his junior tape is very, very impressive, and a guy who I think is easy to call him rangy.
Right. And Ohio State's moved to like a cover 3 zone look this year, and I think he fits in with that, whether he plays safety or cornerback. He's a guy who's not afraid to come down and use his size to his advantage to be a physical player. Again, with ball carriers, he'll come up and put his nose in the box if he has to. But he has cornerback type of skills. So this is a huge pickup for Ohio State. Big loss for Oklahoma. But it brings up some interesting things. Now Ryan Watts, he's going far away from home. He's going to the Big Ten. And Oklahoma's now turned up the heat on Texas commit Joshua Eaton from Aldine Mack. So you can see how it's like a domino effect.
Ripple effect,
yeah, it's a ripple effect in recruiting sometimes to create some more battles. And now we have one brewing between that traditional Red River rivalry between Texas and Oklahoma for Joshua Eaton. Of course, Joshua Eaton is already verbally committed to the Longhorns. So we'll see how Watts' decision to decommit from Oklahoma and go to Ohio State has an effect potentially on the Longhorns.
Yeah, it's a big deal for him to go to Ohio State. I know that Buckeyes are going to really like this kid. He's a hard hitting dude. He lays the lumber, and he will certainly be fun to watch. I think he fits in well with the Big Ten style.
Yeah, me too. I really think it's a good fit. I think it's a good solid decision. Just because they can use him in different spots. I think he's a safety probably. I mean, it's not fair to probably pinpoint it to he could play either, but I think as he grows and matures, he's a safety or a guy who spends more time poking his nose in there to stop the run.
This is we'll get to our underclassmen of the week, and this is true. Yesterday, you were in the office. And we had a meeting. We were talking about something or other. I don't remember.
Big business.
Big business stuff. Big deals.
They usually don't do
doing
that.
Business. And I had just seen, right as I walked in, I had seen that Eastland 2021 quarterback Behren Morton had committed to Texas Tech. And I turned to you and I said, that's a big deal, right? And you were like, yeah, that's a big deal. Behren Morton's our underclassman of the week. He's Texas Tech commit now. Had a lot of offers from all over, including A&M, Baylor, TCU, SMU, USC. He decides to go to Texas Tech, which he had kind of said, at least in his commitment tweet, that it's his dream school. This is, anytime Texas Tech gets a quarterback commit, I think people are going to sit up and pay attention. Man, I know he's a Dave Campbell's Texas football favorite because, from a 3A perspective, this dude can freaking sling it.
Mm-hmm.
And we had the chance to work with him one-on-one at the camp, too, and he's a coach's son, and it's apparent. You know what I mean? He's a yes, sir, no, sir type of kid. He processes very quickly. He makes quick reads, finds the open guy, and I think he fits in with that Texas Tech offense perfectly. And this is a huge commitment on multiple levels because I look at that Texas Tech 2020 commitment list right now and don't see a quarterback on it. Mm-hmm. So, with Alan Bowman coming back next year and the quarterback picture there, this is actually the building block potentially for the future of that Texas Tech program as I see it right now. I don't think, when you get a commitment, he's a 4-star type of kid.
Yeah.
When you get this type of a commitment, you can really point to that when you're recruiting other positions and say, we have the foundation for our future.
Well, and I don't know if this is something we can bring to the air, and so tell me before I can't, but you told me yesterday that if you looked at him across all quarterbacks across the state, any classification, this is the guy who would measure up really well with a lot of the quarterbacks in the 2020 class.
Yeah, well, we're doing an interesting thing on our at Next Level D1 Twitter recently is that we're ranking a top 10 regardless of classification.
Right.
So we're trying to say, here's the 10 best prospects in the state of Texas at these positions.
Right. Whether they're freshmen or seniors.
Freshmen or seniors.
Yeah.
And he's number 9 on our list.
Wow.
So, he's a big-time player.
He is a big-time player. And is that a scrimmage? He's wearing different colored pants.
They mix in the
It's like a
scrimmage tape.
libero with volleyball.
That was the only thing that caught me. And it's
Well,
like
what you find with these
huddle tapes.
these early season highlights is they don't like to put their district tape
Yes,
out there.
absolutely.
So you'll get non-district and scrimmage tape at this part of the year.
Anyway, he's our Behren Morton, our underclassman of the week.
The libero.
Yeah, the libero of anyway, he's a stud, and again, a guy that I think we are always drawn to at Dave Campbell's. We're always drawn to guys at the small school levels that I think are off the beaten path a little bit. And so it's guys like I've been lavishing praise on Ashton Streddick, the running back in Needville, the Princeton commit and stuff like that. Because
Aaron Dumas,
guys outside, because about, for example, a guy we're just about to talk about, about Prince Dorbah, right? The defensive end from Highland Park. But sometimes it's fun to make sure people understand what great talent there is out there, and I think that Texas Tech got a big one this week.
It's a big state.
It's a big state. Greg Powers, the next level athlete, join us on.
That's my analysis of the statistics. It's big.
This week in recruiting here on Texas Football Today. Get involved with the conversation, #TF Today. Get to our recruit of the week. Our recruit of the week is the aforementioned Prince Dorbah, the defensive end from Highland Park. He has earned and accepted an offer to the 2020 All-American Bowl. Gets a nice opportunity to show off on national television there in January 4th.
January 4th.
And he will be part of the top 100 high school ball players in the nation. He has verbally committed to Texas. He has offers from all over the place. We've talked about Prince Dorbah before.
Right.
Worth reiterating. Pretty good at sports.
Yeah, he's good. He's a player. He can play a little bit. And, of course, he has Highland Park poised to make another state championship run. He's a key part of that team. And I got a feeling that we'll be seeing him come playoff time.
Well, and the thing for me that always strikes me about Dorbah is that he still feels kind of raw. Like it still feels like he is playing with a lot of just like raw athleticism. A guy who's just really, really talented. But he has, even going from his junior year to his senior year, you can tell, boy, this guy's getting some polish on him, and he's going to be dangerous when he. I mean, that's what's great. That's what's amazing about him.
Right.
He's a great player right now. And you could argue that he still needs a little bit of polishing around the edges.
Well, what I really like about his game is that he's always had to play with his hand on the dirt, being like 200 to 210 pounds. I think when he gets to Texas, he'll get to do a little bit more standing up on the edge and straight speed rush, which is really going to benefit his game where he don't have to muck it up. You're watching him muck it up with Matt Joyce right here, who's 320 pounds. He's going to be up against those guys, but standing up and getting a little bit of a head start is going to give him an advantage. He uses his hands really well, and he's a relentless player. And I love to hear about these guys getting All-American nods that are also great people off the field. He's a great person away from the field. When he steps off the field, he's a really good kid that you root for. So congratulations to Prince Dorbah.
And a motor.
Yeah, definitely.
Motor. That guy gets going. I remember, the thing I'll always remember about Prince Dorbah is in that championship game against Shadow Creek. I can't remember who I was standing with on the sideline. I was standing with some guy from the media mafia. I'm not standing there, and we were watching the game, and it was like fourth down, and Shadow Creek was down. They had the ball, and I turned to the guy next to me and I go, "You see 32? He's about to run down the quarterback and end the game." And sure enough, he ran, like, you can just see it. He has that knack for the big play at the big moment too.
And the Shadow Creek quarterback, he's pretty fast. I
Xavier
can't remember his name.
Alford. Jamarius George.
Yeah. It's Kyron Drones this year, Jamarius George last year. He was pretty fast.
He was very fast. He ran for 99-yard touchdown. Yeah. Anyway, get to our This Week in Recruiting game of the week. Garland and Lakeview Centennial. Back in GISD.
Yep.
Good year for GISD as far as talent is concerned. And a lot of interesting underclassmen in this one. I know a lot of eyes are going to be on Kamar Wheaton, the running back from Lakeview Centennial. But they've got a North Texas commitment, Garnett Burke Jr., the cornerback that I know you're interested in. And then obviously the underclassman here to note is the Garland receiver, Jordan Hudson.
I'm really excited about GISD talent being on an upswing again. Garland has got 4 or 5 guys on its team right now that we kind of project as being FBS to P5 type of players. They're kind of more under the radar. We're keeping their names strictly for our college clients right now. Not a lot of people know about these guys in Garland, but you talked about Jordan Hudson. Another guy who I'm really excited to see is sophomore running back Jay-Sean Powers there, putting up some stats. He's listed at 5'10", 170, very quick and speedy. And, of course, Lakeview Centennial has Kamar Wheaton, who was, I think he was our cover boy for that class in DCTF Rising magazine last year for the 2021 class. I think that he was the guy that we picked. Was that right? Is that right? Or maybe it was the year.
I think so.
One of the magazines,
yeah.
we had a feature on Kamar Wheaton, and he is in that talk to possibly be the number 1 overall prospect in 2021 in the state. It's a very competitive year. You got guys like Tommy Brockermeyer, Donovan Jackson, Big Deuce Fothery down at Richmond Foster, Cody Jackson down there. But Kamar Wheaton's in the conversation to be number 1. So
We have a couple of questions. Do we have time to
We
do
have
that
a little
real
bit of
fast?
time. We have
All
time
right.
for 2 questions.
2 questions. Okay, so the first one is Brent wanted to know what would cause a 5-star recruit to drop to a 4-star recruit during his senior season.
if the kid who was rated number 6 is better than him, he would go down.
Well, and there's also something to be said, and correct me if I'm wrong, this doesn't happen a ton.
Right.
But it is possible that, like, you see a guy and you think, boy, he's the 4th best prospect in the state, and then you watch his senior film and you're like, you know what? Like, maybe there are guys who are better than them.
Well, we've also tried to take a really conservative approach as it relates to stars.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we have 3 of the 5 stars named in the 2020 class right now, and we still have 2 to pick from.
Mm-hmm.
And there are guys who are in that mix, and we try to make sure that you don't want to have to take a 5th star off a kid if you can avoid it. That would be the answer. We're trying to make sure that we pick the right guys for 5-star status and try to avoid taking a star away from someone. And you have guys, of course, our 3 5-stars right now are Zachary Evans, Damon Demas, and Haynes King. And then in that mix to pick up the last 2 or maybe even supplant those guys, I would say, you have Jaquindon Jackson, Drew Sanders, Jalen Jones, Jace McClellan, and a guy who's really popping back up towards the top of my list based on his senior performance is Seth McGowan. Jackson Smith and Jigba's having a big year. So, I mean, all those guys are in the running to be in that top 5 and earn a 5th stars. We just try to make sure that we don't overestimate guys too early and then have to pull it off of them. So we're trying to take a conservative route. But if you get in the top 5, you're a 5-star. If you're number 6, you're a 4-star. So that's really the breakdown on how you earn a 5th star.
And then the one other one would be Daniel Agnew. He said, I have a question about KD receiver Jordan Patrick. I don't think he's getting a lot of buzz, but I think wherever he lands, he could be a potential sleeper. What are your thoughts?
Let me pull up Patrick, too, on our list because we've already been through we rate him as an FBS guy. He's, listed at 5'8", 160. So speed burner. Katie's producing a big-time running back. It seems like almost every class, and sometimes the receivers there would be overlooked, but we definitely have our eye on him.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
That's it.
He is Greg Powers of Next Level Athlete. Follow him on Twitter at Next Level, or G Power Scout. Follow Next Level Athlete on Twitter at Next Level D1. Find his final work at TexasFootball.com/recruiting, and where you can find This Week in Recruiting this week. Powers, appreciate it. Let's do it again next week.
Let's do it.